intro. I've never done this before. Just kidding. Welcome to the NGMI podcast, or welcome back to the NGMI podcast. Today, we'd like to welcome Jimmy Choi. Am I saying that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Woo! Cool. What's up, Jimmy?
What's going on, guys? Thanks for having me out here.
Thank you for having us with you to here as well. Jimmy Choi is an athlete, and his wife is a scholar. That's what I heard. Beforehand. And a legend. Kind of a legend, right?
Yeah. Yeah, do you want to give us a brief rundown about your story, what you do? Because
Sure.
I found you from TikTok.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I might be a legend, but just maybe in my house. No, wait, no, because my dog is number one. my daughter is number two, and my son, and then my wife, and then me. So I don't know about legend.
Bottom, okay.
You're all legends. You're just maybe the fifth legend in the household.
I'm the fifth legend. You know what? The dog likes me. That's
good. What kind of dog?
She's a golden doodle.
Oh,
yeah,
cute.
so-
Those are cute.
Yeah, she only likes me because I buy the food.
Yeah.
But no, so I'm 47 years old, but I was diagnosed with young onset Parkinson's when I was just 27. So that's 20 years ago. So I've lived with Parkinson's disease for 20 years, and people always say, is it possible to get Parkinson's at that young? And the answer is yes. While most people develop Parkinson's disease at the age of around 60 years old, there are about 10% of people who develop Parkinson's before the age of 40. So we are classified as the young onset Parkinson's. It's the same Parkinson's,
right?
It's just that we develop it younger.
In the case of it developing, does it develop and get worse? Do you maintain it? Does it start somewhere, or is it always the same?
Yeah. So I don't know if you guys know Michael J. Fox. He has a saying that says, if you've met one person with Parkinson's, you've met one person with Parkinson's. It's so different for everybody.
Yeah.
But what is the same across the board is that there is no cure for Parkinson's disease. It is a neurodegenerative disease, which just means that it gets worse over time. Brain cells begin to die off in the brain that produce dopamine cells. And of course, dopamine is the chemical in your body that helps control movement.
Yeah.
So anything that is movement related can be affected. So as time goes on, a typical person with Parkinson's will get worse and worse, and to the point where some people might completely freeze up and not be able to move.
Yeah.
Or some people can just move so much all the time that it's completely uncontrollable.
Right.
So it's like the spectrum is just so wide, right? And that is one of the less known things about Parkinson's, because people think about Parkinson's, they immediately envision an old guy that has tremors.
Right.
And that's all they think. Oh, it's just tremors, right? No big deal.
Yeah.
Tremors is just the tip of the iceberg. If you think about it, anything that is a movement, that's a muscle, can be affected, right? Your heart is a muscle. Your tongue is a muscle. Right. Even those little tiny muscles in your ear that control your eardrums is a muscle.
Jeez.
Right? So nobody ever thinks about that. So and one of the things I like to make sure that people understand is that tremors is what you can see, which is what people associate people with Parkinson's.
Right.
But now imagine having just constipation, like chronic constipation, because your bowel movements is a movement, right? So now everything slows down. Okay.
Wow.
So just imagine I'm sitting there on the toilet, just like losing my shit, trying to lose my shit. You know what I'm saying? Right? Yeah. So, and nobody wants to talk about that because poop is not fun to talk about.
Hey, we talk about poop here all the time.
Yeah, you know what? That's why I feel at home already.
Hey, let it all out, man.
Let it all out, exactly.
But
constipation, just a lot of pressure builds up, a lot of pain goes on. But and then when I talk about that little muscle in your ear, in my right ear, it's always tremoring. That muscle is tremoring. So which means my eardrum is tightening and loosening, tightening and loosening.
Is it something you hear or just something you feel?
Yeah, it's it's kind of like fluttering. So if you do this to your own ear, that's what I hear out of my right ear. So when you're talking, if you see me turn around like this, it's because I can't hear you.
Got it.
Okay. So, I don't know if you guys like the television show How I Met Your Mother, right? Neil Patrick Harris, Barney Stinson, right?
Yeah.
That one episode, he's like, where he got an ear infection, right? And he can hear his heartbeat. He goes, I can hear my own ear. Think about it, right? Yeah. That's me all day long. I can hear my own ear.
Wow.
So, but so long story, really short. Ultimately, over time, Parkinson's in most people will get worse. But what I have experienced for myself is I've been down that road. The first 8 years after I was diagnosed, I kind of succumbed to that I'm going to have Parkinson's and this is it for me. Right.
Yeah.
But I found out after my first 8 years that there is something to be done. There are things that you can do to maintain movement. There are some things you can do to maintain as best of a life as you possibly can.
And did you figure out these things based on like a community that you found, or just like trial and error from your end, or
all of the above?
Yeah.
Yeah, all of the above. So the first 8 years, I just shut down. Right. I went into denial. I went into disbelief. I basically told, I didn't tell anybody, first of all. I didn't even tell my wife when I was diagnosed.
Wow.
I told her 3 months later because I started taking medication. Right.
So you were already with her when you got diagnosed?
Yes. Yeah.
And also, sorry, how did you go in to get it diagnosed? Like how?
So it's probably the longest process that I've encountered, and my grandma has gone through cancer. My parents have gone through cancer, and this is like the way to being, because there's no blood tests for Parkinson's. It is all subjective to a observation of your neurologist, right? So it was a clinical diagnosis, meaning they sat me down and they said, well, how do you feel about this? And, what are you feeling? And then they start ruling things out. And then I've done CAT scans, MRIs, all these things, and they found nothing because Parkinson's doesn't show up in most of those. And then ultimately, what they do is like sort of the last straw, the last thing that they give you is take this medication, this is exactly how one of the, then my neurologist saw me and she said, this is like my third neurologist. And she's like, in 5 minutes, she goes, oh, you've got Parkinson's, just by looking at me. I'm like, what? And so she's like, take this medication, and if it works, I'm right. If it doesn't work, I'm wrong.
What were the early symptoms that you initially went into the doctor for?
So remember, I was 27 years old,
yeah,
right? And I was feeling a lot of, I was starting to feel like small tremors here and there, like smooth movement things, like twitches here and there. I was losing my balance. That's first thing I did was I thought that it was stress related.
Right.
It's everyday life, right?
Yeah.
Because we've all been in situations where our eyes are just like popping back and forth, right?
Yeah.
And that's stress related. So it was stuff like that, stiffness, like really, really slow movement. Like I know I can move faster, but I'm like if I'm trying to reach for that water, I know I can get there faster, but it's just really slow, right? And then loss of balance. These were the first signs, but I thought that was just everyday life.
Yeah, like you were just getting fatigued from life and work.
I was in a stressful job. I was part of the generation that launched the internet, right? And I was part of that movement, so it was stressful. And then for all the young people listening, yes, I'm older than Google.
Oh wow!
And you worked at Google.
And I worked at Google, right? But so those are things that everyday life, and I just never thought to get it checked out. But when I got married, my wife and I got married, and we decided that we're going to try to start a family. And my dad always says, go buy life insurance when you're ready to start a family. So that's what I did. So the nurse that came in to do the life insurance physical, she's like, hey, you know what? I've noticed some things about you. And she can't give me a diagnosis, right? Nurses can't do that, right?
Yeah.
But she says, look, I do this insurance stuff on the side, but my everyday job, I work in a neurologist's office. So these are the things that you should go talk to your doctor about. And she gave me a whole list of things that she saw and noticed in me. And that's kind of how things got started. But even with
give you the life insurance first.
So so she signed off on my physical.
Okay.
And then yes, I did get my life insurance.
Nice. Good.
That's a great question too, because now it's almost impossible for me to buy life insurance.
Oh, because you've been diagnosed?
Because I've been diagnosed.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But, that was kind of how the road I got to get diagnosed. But it wasn't as simple as that. because, like I said, it was months and months of visits to specialists.
Sure.
Before somebody had the guts to say, dude, you got Parkinson's.
This is what it is.
Yeah.
What I'm curious why the other two people wouldn't have been able to come out and say it. Like, is it like, has it not been around that long? Or
no, yeah, my Parkinson's. So Dr. Parkinson's is the first person that described and named the disease. He just had his 200th birthday, a couple of years ago. Oh. So it's been around for a long time. The disease has been identified for a long time. But once again, the stigma is that this is for old people. So anybody that comes in when they're that young, neurologists who don't specialize in movement disorders will tend to stay away from that based on statistics, right? Based on your age, that's probably not Parkinson's. So we'll just stay away from that. And
you mentioned Michael J. Fox earlier, because he's pretty big advocate for it, because he was really young too when he got diagnosed.
He was 29.
29,
when he was diagnosed. Yeah. So he had, of course, the Michael J. Fox Foundation is the largest foundation for Parkinson's research. To date, in the last 20 years, they've raised over $1 billion and funded $1 billion in research. In the last 20 years, there's so much progress has been made, but there's still so much work to do.
Sure.
And then just for full transparency, I do sit on the patient board for the Michael J. Fox Foundation as well.
Right on.
Sweet. Yeah, I saw you have some photos with him up on the IG. Is he a cool guy?
Yeah, he's everybody has a vision of people that they see on TV, right?
Yeah.
And because of the characters that he's played, everybody's got this sense of him that he's probably the nicest guy and the funniest person you can meet, and that's exactly who he is.
That's good.
Yeah. Despite what he's gone through, he's living with the disease now for 30 years. And every time I see him, he's always cracking jokes. We can laugh about it, and that's the only way to move forward. One of the things that he's taught me, he's been a really good mentor for me. And one of the things that he taught me, and it's something that I've hung on to for the last 7 years or so, when he told me this, is that if you can't laugh at yourself, then you can't be happy.
Yeah.
So I'm like, yeah, that's right.
It's like choosing a mindset, instead of letting everything get you down.
Absolutely. I mean, and I lived my first 8 years in the darkness. My wife calls it the dark year, and she never told me that until a few years ago, when I started making my turnaround, my change, right? Because those first 8 years, I was just busting my butt trying to make as much money as I can, so I can make sure that my family is taken care of.
Right.
And then, stress, we know today, is the #1 enemy for Parkinson's. It elevates all the symptoms.
Oh, wow.
So I was actually doing myself a disservice by putting myself in extra stressful situations.
Yeah.
Putting yourself under way more pressure than.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then that developed into denial, developed into anger. That anger developed into depression. I was just down. That part of my life was something that I look back to today. And then when I heard my wife call it the dark years for the first time, it was like, holy shit, I can't believe I put her through that.
Yeah.
Can't believe I put her through that, and I can't believe she's still with me.
Yeah. So what after the 8 years, what got you to the point of like, I need to make a change and switch this around?
I was carrying my son down the stairs. He was only 10 months old at the time. And so remember, I was walking with a cane, and I was also 250 pounds, by the way, at that point. I just became so inactive that I didn't do anything. And so I walked with the cane, and then I was going down the stairs. I got my son in one hand. I'm like, I got the railing. I don't need my cane. I'll come back for it later, right? Those are always the famous last words, right? And when you think something like that.
I don't need it this time.
I don't need it this time,
Definitely.
right? But sure enough, my legs didn't cooperate. It didn't move when I commanded to move. And then my left leg proceeded to take the next step, which is down an extra step of stairs. And the two of us went tumbling down. 10 total steps, so an entire flight of stairs. And that was my wake-up moment. When I hit the bottom, I kept him on my body as close as I can. And I tried to fall on my back as much as I could down the stairs. But the worst part was, he was okay, thank goodness. But the worst part was when I looked up, my wife and my daughter, my 2-year-old daughter and my wife, they witnessed the whole thing, and the look on their face, that sheer horror, that was enough to just like kind of something snapped at that moment in me. I knew I had to make a change.
Yeah.
Now, I'll be honest with you, I didn't know what the hell I was going to do, right? Certainly wasn't rich enough to fund a cure for myself, right?
Right.
And I'm certainly not smart enough to find a cure for myself, because if it was that easy, they would have figured it out by now.
Yeah.
Hey, but you are pretty smart.
I don't know. I'm pretty lucky. You know, I'm being in the right place in the right time. I'm pretty lucky, I think. But I'm no dummy, right? But so I figured the best thing that I was going to do is the next best thing for me to do is to just give myself up to science. If I wasn't gonna, there's no cure, so I'm gonna give my body up so we can help find a cure. So I started signing up for clinical trials, as much as I can find, whatever I can find online. And guys, this is before Google, right? So this was.
Wait a minute. What was the internet before Google? How did you search?
I was asking Jeeves. You guys don't even know that.
I don't know. I remember Jeeves.
Asking Jeeves. I was on Lycos, right? Whoa. I was on AOL and Yahoo.
Yeah, you can just Google an answer.
You don't Google things, but you Yahoo things back then. Or you Ask Jeeves. But but I went online, and it really was the first time that I started educating myself on Parkinson's. The very first time.
After 8 years.
After 8 years, right? Absolutely nothing those first 8 years. And then, so I signed up for a clinical trial after clinical trial. And then just like getting involved in these clinical trials, you learn a lot, right?
Yeah.
Just not only just about the science of things, why they're doing this research, but how that ultimately connects to a symptom or something, related to Parkinson's.
So these clinical trials, were they like, just you doing like activities or certain forms of treatments and stuff?
All of the above. I mean, some were as simple as just answering questions. Some you actually took medication. Some I had my head cracked open 3 times for another one.
What?
And
cracked
then
open how?
Take a look inside. And
they drilled. They drilled a hole, right?
What?
And then it was a combination stem cell and gene therapy. So they drilled a hole. They extracted stem cells. They modified the stem cells so that to be dopamine producing cells, and then they inject it back in your brain to see what happens, see what sticks. Throwing shit at the wall and see what sticks, right? So it's all. But the best one, or the one that kind of flipped the switch for me, was
exosomes.
It was a clinical trial on forced exercise.
Okay.
Physical therapy, and this physical therapist was just making me exercise, not like a drill sergeant, but I was on a table, and she was just like moving my legs over and over again. She got more of a workout than I did, right? But what happened is that it tricked the body into thinking that I was doing the movements, and then after a couple of sessions, I've always felt at the end of those sessions that, not at the end, but like a little bit after those sessions, I would feel a little bit better, right? So then, I was like, well, maybe there's something to this exercise thing, right? And then I started doing more of that on my own. I started to walk around the block at home with my cane. And then when I felt comfortable, I left it at home and see how far I can get, right? Get to the mailbox and back, get down the block and back. Next thing you know, I was doing blocks, and then I would leave the cane, and I was doing more. And then I was like, what if I start jogging?
Yeah. Right?
So I started jogging. I was like, well, what if I stop jogging and start running? And so this is all in 2000. So I was diagnosed in 2003. And so by 2010 is when I started doing all these clinical trials, 7 years later.
And were you exercising before you were diagnosed?
Before I was diagnosed, yes. I was a pretty darn good golfer.
Okay.
Actually,
you said you were athletic. Sorry, I went backwards.
No, it's all good. I kind of just gave it up, right?
Yeah.
And actually, that's a good point that I want to talk about too a little bit, and we can always come back to it. But one of the first things that I did that was a huge mistake, and this is going to be a message to everybody that's dealing with any adversity, right? Just because I was told, hey, Jimmy, you've got Parkinson's, immediately I shut everything down. Anything movement related, I was like, I can't do that anymore. And I gave it all up, right?
Yeah.
That was the worst thing I could have done. And I gave it up. I gave up golf. I gave up, playing basketball with my friends. I gave up all these things that was active, which led to my weight gain, which led to my decline in ability to move.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's really interesting you bring that up, because I was talking about it with a couple of people yesterday. Like when someone gets diagnosed with something, whether it's depression or whatever, then they can say, not use it as an excuse, but kind of use it as an excuse to not function, not do the things that they like doing. They're saying like, well, I can't do it because I'm sad.
Absolutely.
So that's really interesting.
I did that, and I know that's not the way to go, right? But so by 2010, I started exercising a little bit. By 2012, I did my first 5K. I've never ran more than a mile, right? Before that, when you do sports, right? You play football, you don't run a mile,
right?
Right?
Yeah, you just run on the field.
I wrestled. You do a lot of running and wrestle, but it's in wrestling, you do a lot of running and wrestling. Did I say that right? I did. Okay. Yes. But you don't run distance, right? And baseball, you don't run in baseball. Come on, it's 90 feet. That's it. That's all you need to do. But it was the first time in my life ever that I completed a 5K, and I was like, this is incredible. I've done something post-diagnosis that I've never done pre-diagnosis.
Yeah.
Right. So I can do
That's
more.
awesome.
So to answer really the first question you asked me to answer, to finally get to that point.
I don't even remember the question.
Yeah. So to finally answer your question, so up to this point, since 2012, I went from 5K to 10K to half marathons up to marathons. I've completed one ultra marathon, which was a 50-miler.
Holy shit.
I've done 16 marathons. I've done 105 half marathons. I've done triathlons. I was actually the first person with Parkinson's to complete a 100-mile bike ride in under 5 hours.
Wow.
So that's holding a 20-mile-per-hour average on a bike.
And triathlons, bike running and swimming, right?
Bike running and swimming and triathlons.
Damn.
And then, so I did all of those things that I've never done before. I was diagnosed. After I was diagnosed, So people now ask me all the time, Jimmy, can you imagine how much faster you might be, how much stronger you might be, or all the things that you could have done if you've never been diagnosed with Parkinson's? My answer is very simple. Is that I wouldn't be doing none of this shit.
Right.
if I was never diagnosed with Parkinson's, I'd be sitting on the couch watching Netflix with everybody else.
Yeah. You turned it into something that benefited you.
Yeah.
That's great.
And having a movement disorder, they say is it affects my movement. So the best thing that I can do for that is to just keep moving. Absolutely.
Oh, you're just
move.
Just move.
Nice.
So that's what I did. And all of that led to all the other stuff that I've done. And my kids, they grew up when they're growing up. Remember, when I fell down the stairs, my son was 10 months old. My daughter was 2 years old. Right. I was big and heavy back then, but they don't remember that. Right. From everything that they remember is when I started my turnaround. So to my kids, I've always been athletic, sort of a super dad. Right. So they'll always, and my daughter's athletic. So she's always like, you should try this. You should do that. And then American Ninja Warrior in 2017 came on, and she's like, Dad, you go do that. And she loves the show, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, are you kidding me? I have Parkinson's, right? What do you need for American Ninja Warrior? Let's see. Grip strength. You need balance, right? You need the upper body strength. I'm a runner. Come on. Those are three things I don't have. And then, American Ninja Warrior is it's a great television show because it shows stories of people overcoming adversity. It shows stories of other people, getting over their own whatever it is, right? And so we were watching, and then we're watching all these stories, and you see a guy with one leg get on the course, right? You see someone else, that just lost, like is like wearing a was that a colostomy bag? Did I say that right? What is that? The pee bag?
Oh yeah, I can't think of the word.
I don't even know.
Yeah, but
the bag that holds your pee.
There you go. Yes, that. So you see, so my daughter turns to me and says, "What's your excuse?"
Yeah.
All right. I'm like, holy shit, I don't have one, right? And I can't teach my kids what I'm trying to teach them if I keep making excuses.
Right.
So I'm like, all right, just to shut her up, I'm gonna apply for the show, right? Just to shut her up.
So you applied before even doing any training?
I did, yeah. And I had no training. I was like, I just apply, right? And I did. And then they called me and they're like, hey man, you want a shot? I'm like, are you serious? They're like, yeah.
Wow.
I'm like, okay. So then I have to get myself to a gym 5 weeks to prepare myself.
They gave you 5 weeks before filming.
Before filming.
So when you signed up, you weren't really expecting them to call?
Oh, of course not. Yeah,
it was just to tell you that you're like, I signed up.
Yeah, I was like, there's nothing I can do.
Yeah,
Sorry. So my daughter's name is Karina. I'm like, sorry, Karina, I signed up. They didn't call me, right? That's how I thought it was gonna go down.
5 minutes later, hello.
Yeah, famous last words, right?
Yeah,
right. Man, I'm never gonna win that $1 billion, right? Let's see if that wins. No, that doesn't work either.
I should have said that before I played the Mega Millions last time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like I kept pushing myself every time I achieve some type of physical activity, physical goal. It doesn't end there. I keep pushing myself out. So, and then since that moment, being an American Ninja Warrior for the first time, I fell in love with the sport. I fell in love with training for it. Because think about it, I have a movement disorder, right? What better way for me to learn how to move my body around than learning how to move my body around?
Yeah. Because now
right?
we see like the videos that you post are like the peg boards and stuff like that. You're doing everything that is like, it's hard to do because you're fitting a little thing into a hole, right? And that's like, what is it? Doing something that's like really hard to do makes other things easier, right?
Absolutely. I mean, if I can move my body around an American Ninja Warrior obstacle course, I can certainly move myself around a table, an end table, right? Stepping on Lego bricks. But just, everything about learning movement is, and how it relates to everyday life is exactly why I train my body nowadays. Now, I don't run as much as I usually do anymore. I'm no longer doing marathons and things like that. And it's just because I'm getting older. My body I need to live in this body with Parkinson's for the next 30 years or so more. So I just need to make sure I need to preserve my body. So
running is like pretty notoriously bad for joints and stuff over time, right?
Especially doing marathons and training for a marathon. I mean,
you did a 50-mile marathon once,
right?
It's I run like 5 miles and I get shin splints.
Yeah, and so it just so every time I do something, I try to push it out a little bit. But now that I'm learning how to move my body, it's great because I can start relating everything back to my Parkinson's. How am I going to live, with what I'm being affected by? How am I going to try not to let this disease get ahead of me? Right. So
you're faster. You run faster.
You move. Whatever you can. And I'll tell you what, I'm not fast, right? I mean, I'll run if I push it, I can do a 7-minute mile. But like my marathons, the fastest I've done was a 3 hour and then I forget, it was 3 hours and 40 minutes or something like that. Right.
That sounds very fast.
It's not bad. It's not bad, but it's not like, it's not 2 hours and 15 minutes. Right.
Sure. Yeah.
But I tell you what, I always compared myself every time I'm doing something athletic. I compare myself to somebody else. Right. And I've learned over the years that that's really not the way to do it. If you're trying to do things, if you're trying to improve yourself, that's really not the way to do it. You need to be the best for you. Right. So in 2015, check this out. I ran my fastest marathon. I crossed the finish line. It was 3 hours and 40 minutes. Right. And then at the charity event at the end of the marathon, I met the winner of the race. He ran it in 2 hours and 16 minutes. Okay? And he comes up to me, he goes, "Hey man, congratulations." I'm like, "Hey, thanks." I'm like, "You just like, you're like a rocket out there. You killed it." He goes, "Oh, I did all right. I did good." And then he's like, "What was your time?" And I'm like, "You're asking me what my time is?" I'm like, I feel embarrassed, right? 3 hours and 40 minutes. Yeah. And he goes, "That's amazing. It really is. I mean it." And then I realized after talking to him for another 5 or 6 minutes, he really meant that it was amazing. So I asked him, I'm like, "Hey, why are you impressed with a 3 hour and 40 minute marathon time when you just did the same distance in 2:16? He's like, "Look, I can run this distance in 2:16. It's just because that's how fast my legs move. That's how my body works. That's me."
Yeah.
But if you ask me to stay out and gut out something for 3 hours and 40 minutes or for 4 hours, I couldn't do it.
Right.
He goes, "So for that, by that definition, you are fitter than I am. You are better than me."
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? It's like a mind-blowing moment. I'm like, holy crap.
Because you have the willpower to stick it through for a longer period of time than...
Yes.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it's about how much you want something.
Right.
Yeah. How much you're willing to give and to go out and actually do it.
Yeah. I had a gym coach in school, and whenever we would run the mile, any like track kids, they would run like a 5:50 mile, and he would give them an F, and then like some overweight kid would run a 10-minute mile, and he'd give them an A because they like were putting in more effort, where the track kids could run a like 5:05 mile but weren't trying.
Right. Exactly. So I've learned in the last few years, it's just all about perspective.
Yeah, it's all about you, not what everyone else is doing.
Yeah. And when I stop comparing myself to everyone else, right? I mean, I'm never going to win American Ninja Warrior, right? I'm not going to win the $1 million, right? I'm not going to win a marathon, right? I'm not going to run 2 hours. I'm not going to win an Ironman, right?
But you did it, and you showed yourself you could do it. You showed your kids and your family that you could do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I'm just doing the best I can for me.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, I'm sharing my journey so that hopefully others can learn. Maybe, if I can help one person throughout this whole ordeal, at the end of the day, when I'm 6 feet under and my family buried me, and if one person comes up and says, Jimmy's made a difference, then that's a win for me.
Yeah, well, I think you definitely do, and all the things that you're saying sound so universal as well, like not comparing yourself to someone else and only working to better your own well-being and what you're doing, as well as not succumbing to a diagnosis or being told you can't do something and saying, fuck you, yes I can.
Absolutely. At the end of the day, and just like you said, right, this applies to, I think if you just look at life in general, right? Exercise is good for you.
Yeah.
Right. Eating healthy is good for you. Right. And then, not letting something define you, doing the best, giving yourself 100%, giving 100%. These are all things that applies to life in general, not just Parkinson's.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, Bill Murray, I think it's Bill Murray, he said it best, and he goes, always give 100% unless you're giving blood.
That sounds like Bill Murray.
Yeah.
Good.
So you've been on American Ninja Warrior 3 times, right?
5 times.
5 times.
5 times, yes.
Do you have any plans to go on more?
No, so last year was my last time. And I'll tell you guys why. When you go on the show and all these teenagers come up to you and first of all they call me Mr. Choi, right? They say, Mr. Choi, I've watched you for the last 4 or 5 years, and I just want to say how great it is to meet you, etc. Blah blah blah, right? And then the next line they say is, hey, can you talk to my dad, because I want him to start doing this and he won't. And you're like older than him, so if you can do it, then I'm like, okay, it's time to step back from this, because all these kids now, all these teenagers are and they're flying circles around me, right? Yeah. So I'm like, yeah, it's time to step back. And my daughter's, my daughter's been an American Ninja Warrior Junior. She competes.
Oh no way!
And then actually, so on Labor Day, coming Labor Day, you guys will see me for the last time at American Ninja Warrior.
Oh, that's about to
everyone Labor Day. Check out Jimmy Choi
we're gonna
on American Ninja Warrior.
And I'll tell you what,
or as the kids like to call him, Mr. Choi.
Yeah, Mr. Choi. But what I'm most excited about that is my daughter's on it with me.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Oh, cool. Did she compete with you?
She did.
Wow, that's exciting.
Can't tell you guys what happened, right? But it's
gotta wait and see.
That's really cool.
I'm excited for people to see that.
There was some viewer questions. Should we ask some of those questions as well, or?
Yeah. So we reached out to some viewers, listeners. We got some questions for you.
Yeah.
Some of them sucked, but we didn't write those ones down.
We filtered through. We took the good ones. So yeah, we'll just run through.
There are no bad questions, right? Just dumb questions. No, I'm just kidding.
Do you ever get self-conscious about having Parkinson's?
Oh yeah, all the time. So I've learned like 95 different ways to hide Parkinson's, right? I mean, now I don't care.
Right.
I just sit there, and you guys probably see me just sitting here flailing about, right? But when in my professional life, you have to hide, because you don't know what people are going to perceive.
Right.
So you sit on my hands, When I'm speaking on a podium at work, I do a lot of speaking in front of people. I just hang on to the podium for dear life.
Wow.
Right. And then, so muscle activation actually lessens tremors and things like that.
So if you're like squeezing it, you're
like
so
flexing
I'm
hard.
hugging the the podium, right?
Yeah.
So
like, he's got a death grip on that thing. He looks so buff.
Start crushing it.
Start ripping things off of it, So, but yeah, I've come. There's a lot of ways to hide the different symptoms. There's this, and check this out. There's actually a symptom that's not really a symptom. It's a side effect of my medication. It's called dyskinesia. And it's basically a very rhythmic movement, right? So I have to choose when, if I take this medication, I will have uncontrolled rhythmic movements, or I can have uncontrolled tremors, right? Choose your which. So, but when I do have dyskinesia and it's very predictable. It's almost.
It's more like a flow.
It's more like a flow.
Yeah.
And my wife always says, you know what? You look like you're slow jamming to yourself when you have that.
Way to look at it.
So that's a way is like, if I'm doing that, then I'm just like, oh, I'm just saying to myself, or just so many different ways of hiding. But yes, I do get self-conscious. Imagine, now you get tap to pay when you go to grocery stores.
Right.
But they used to make you stick that card into a slot, right?
Yeah.
Now imagine a 1/7 inch slot for a 1/8 inch card.
Right.
For a guy with tremors trying to get that in there.
Yeah.
Everybody's staring. Staring. Right? And then I told you guys already that stress elevates everything. So it makes it worse. It makes it even harder for me to put the card in.
Right. If you start to get embarrassed or stressed, then it's hard. Yeah.
That's also kind of universal with like anxiety, I guess. It's
Absolutely.
like, if you start getting anxious about something, it becomes harder and harder for you to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember there's a TikTok you posted about you do like card dealing at a casino night, and some guy was just like being such a dick to you.
Yeah. And can I tell that? Can we talk about that?
Yeah,
for a little bit?
please,
Let's talk
absolutely.
about that a little bit. So it was a charity event, right? First of all, you're at a charity event. Don't be a dick.
Yeah.
Right.
right. And second of all, the person at the charity event that's working the charity event is helping the charity. Don't be a dick.
Yeah.
Right. So I enjoy playing poker, and then I volunteered to deal cards, right? Yeah. So then I sit down, and I'm the dealer, and everybody sits down. Everybody's going to see the tremoring, and I always tell people, I say, "Hey guys, don't worry about." I said, I have tremors, I have Parkinson's, but you know what? We're here to have a good time. I'm going to deal the cards just fine.
Yeah.
But this guy sitting in this would be the 7th seat, right? And he's sitting over here. So 7th seat is one of the closest seats to the dealers. So he decides that making fun of it would be better than playing the game, right? So, if I deal the card just slightly off to the right or left of him, he'll go, misdeal, and then, and he'll make a big fuss, right? So then the floor person would have to come and there's really not a misdeal, right? But slowing down the game.
Right.
But I can deal with that, right? You can joke all you want about that. It's dumb, it's stupid. Like I said, I can laugh at myself.
Yeah.
But the next thing that he does is more of a bully action, right? So I don't know if you guys play cards.
I played. I don't play much, but
But when somebody makes a bet and you go to call the bet, you have to obviously have the same amount, right? And in casinos they like to use $5 chips or $10 or $25 chips, and it stacks up. So he would slide these chips in, and then he would mimic my tremor, and splash the pot, right? And then once the money is in the pot, players aren't allowed to touch it, right? It is up to the dealer to make sure that the pot is good. So he would splash the pot with his chips while mimicking and laughing about my tremors.
Yeah.
So now I've got to go and stack these chips up, picking up these chips, little tiny chips, one by one, and I've got to stack them up, right? And then, of course, 10 pairs of eyes, 10 players on this table, 10 pairs of eyes staring at me, it's going to make it worse.
Yeah.
So it's having a really hard time stacking these chips and making the count right. And he didn't do it just once. He didn't do it twice. He did it every time he made a bet or made a call.
Did anybody else at the table say something?
Everybody. To be fair, everybody at the table was like, "Dude, man, that's fucked up, right?
Yeah.
Stop. That's messed up. Stop it." And then people call the organizers over, and the organizers like, "Hey, sir, it's really disrespectful. Can you stop?" He's like, "Oh yeah, don't worry about it. I got it." And then he just continued doing it. Damn. So ultimately, it's got to the point where I would just kick this guy's ass, right?
I was gonna say.
because I'm here and I represent the charity, it's probably not good for me to do that, right?
Yeah.
On behalf of the charity.
Oh, I'd want to kick some ass.
And I was gonna say
real
you could
bad.
probably beat his ass. Really.
So I got up and left. But
yeah.
I think those who know me and those who follow either my TikToks or Instagram or whatever know that I can literally rip this guy into 2 pieces.
Yeah.
You know? So,
Yeah. I mean, obviously the better thing to do is walk away, but like you're being bullied for one. Total dick move, and the guy's ruining the game for everybody else. You're working at a charity.
Yeah.
The whole thing is fucked up on so many different levels.
Yeah.
It's like, what the hell?
So, you know, what's wonderful about social media is that the social media came, you know, and they were very supportive of me. Say, hey, you did the right thing. And then everybody's like, tell me his name. I'm like, I'm not about that. Number 2, I don't know his name, right?
They're about to get him canceled, fired from work.
Right, exactly. You know, they want to know, and but I'm not about that. And number 2, he was a player that I never met before. I don't know him, right? But you know, at the end of the day, and unfortunately, he was a big donor to the charity, and that's why they didn't kick him out. You know, so it's money drives a lot of things.
What was the charity for specifically?
So it's cystic fibrosis.
Gotcha. Okay.
Right.
That's crazy. He's a donor for a charity of some sort of thing like that, and he's
Which makes me think it's more of a
bullying
tax write-off for him than anything else.
Oh, for sure.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? He was invited to this because he made a big donation, which is probably a tax write. I don't want to speculate, but judging from how big of an a-hole he was,
Yeah,
right?
the context clues add up.
Sitting there acting like he didn't care, but he was there because he was a big donor, like, and just kind of was like obligated to be there, sort of thing.
Right. You know, but this stuff happens all the time, which is one of my biggest reasons, goals is to again lessen the stigma for people with Parkinson's. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want them to be ashamed of going out because of who they are.
Yeah.
You know, this happened to me on an airplane too. You know, I sit there and I tremor. Sometimes I end up in the middle seat on a packed airplane.
Mm-hmm.
So then I would shake, and the person next to me would get nudged all, throughout the entire flight.
Yeah.
And most people would, they'll ask nicely, sir, can you stop, right? And then I'll explain my situation. And of course, they feel like shit. They feel like complete assholes
Yeah.
for even saying something, right? I'm like,
Yeah.
no, I completely get it. I understand. But then we have a cordial conversation, and I can educate them about the disease if they
Yeah.
want to learn.
Right.
But then there was one situation where this guy was like, a flight attendant, can I move because I don't want to catch it? I'm like,
He
wait,
said that?
yeah. I'm like, wait, you don't want to catch Parkinson's? I'm like, it's non-contagious, dude, right? Non-contagious. He's like, I don't know about that. So that's how ignorant the general public is,
Yeah.
right, about the disease. So, and it's great. You go ahead and move. So she moved him,
Yeah.
right? But then now
Like,
I've got extra room. I get to spread out a little bit. But I always try to make the best out of situations. But at the same time, this stuff happens all the time in the grocery stores, like I said, on the airplane, at charity events.
Yeah.
People just don't understand, and some of them, unfortunately, they think it's better to laugh about it or just whatever.
And say it's not
Right.
affecting me, so I don't care.
Exactly.
I'm ignorant to it. I don't want to learn
Yep.
about it, and I'll joke about it because it doesn't affect me. Like,
Exactly.
Next question. What are some misconceptions with Parkinson besides it being contagious? We just learned
Good
about.
follow up.
So I mentioned a couple already, right? That it's only for old people.
Right.
That it's just the tremors, right? The other part about Parkinson's that nobody really understands is that it affects the cognitive side of the brain as well. It's not just movement, but like getting words out can be really slow.
But you're really, really good at it.
Well, thank you. And
Yeah.
I talk really fast because I've been trained to do that too. Because once you it's kind of like siphoning like gasoline with a pipe. If you guys ever, like with where you suck.
I've
on
never
the pipe.
stolen gasoline before.
Really, even in this environment. but it's kind of like once you get the train rolling, then you just go.
Yeah.
Right.
But I do stutter quite a bit when I start getting flustered. I will stutter just because I can't get the words out. And then also just like general like day fog, right? And some people with Parkinson's experience hallucinations, and some people with Parkinson's will completely just kind of like not really zone out, but you're still doing what you're supposed to be doing, but there's no awareness of that.
Right.
That's going on. You know, like I would get home, drive my kids home from practice, right, and have no idea how I got there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a drunk, hangover type of feel.
Like a hazy state of
hazy state, and it's
I'm like here, but I don't feel like I'm here, kind of thing.
Yeah, and one of the things, when you see a person with Parkinson's at a party, they usually are in a corner by themselves. Number one, either they're embarrassed about the symptoms, or they're just not engaged, and it's not because they don't want to. It's not because I don't want to be engaged, right? It's the disease.
Yeah.
So, my wish and my hope for people, the general public out there, is when you see someone in that situation, is continue to engage. Unless they physically say, "Get the hell out of my face," or "Stop," right? Continue to engage because we want to. But sometimes it's just hard. But ultimately, we will try if we're continually encouraged.
Is Parkinson's genetic?
Good question. Science is still trying to provide an answer to that. But statistically speaking, no, it's not. What that means is that if a person is going to have Parkinson's disease, it's in their system somewhere. Whether it's in a gene, whether it's in, so you're primed to have Parkinson's, but something in the environment pulls the trigger.
Oh, so they think you're born with it, and then some sort of event.
Yes and no,
sets
right?
It off?
Yeah, some kind of event sets it off, right? And then you hear all the time, right? Oh, well, it runs in my family. My uncle had it. My dad had it. My grandpa had it. Now I have it, right? But when you look at it statistically, only less than 10% of all the cases of people with Parkinson's can attribute it to genetics or to family line. What all these other cases of, oh, my dad had it, or my brother has it, and now I have it, right? How do you explain that if it's not genetic? Well, you guys lived in the same environment growing up, didn't you?
Yeah.
Right? Right?
Yeah.
So something in the environment pulled the trigger, right?
Interesting.
And so we know people, veterans who fought in Vietnam and actually in Iraq have a higher rate of Parkinson's. Right, and Agent Orange is a chemical that's known to cause that's been linked to Parkinson's, and that's military related.
Yeah.
Right. And then there's paraquat, which is a pest insecticide that is linked heavily to people with Parkinson's.
Wow.
And then head trauma, right? Muhammad Ali is a good example. You get punched in the head too many times. And I mentioned I played football in high school. And I was an offensive lineman, and offensive lineman, you bang your head every play.
Yeah.
And then back in the late '80s and the early '90s when I played, concussions was like, whatever, dude, just get up, drink, smell some smelling salts, and get back out there and do it all over again.
Yeah.
So those are triggers for Parkinson's, and no one can really pinpoint what that is.
That's related to a movie, but have you seen Christian Bale's Batman trilogy?
I have not.
They put something in the water and then they activate it with smoke.
Okay, that part I know. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what it reminded me of.
That part I know. I'm a huge Batman fan, but unfortunately during that Christian Bale era,
that was the dark era.
That was my dark era, and I was trying to kill myself, trying to make money for my family and things.
Yeah.
Like that.
Well, he's the Dark Knight, so
he's the Dark Knight.
Yeah, you guys are connected.
Maybe I need to go back and watch all those all his movies.
Yeah.
Also, good. As you said that there is no cure, but they've been doing. You did like a bunch of clinical trials and stuff like that. They're still working towards finding something that will stop it. Obviously.
Yeah. So this might be one of the questions, right? Is that how and I get asked all this time, so I'm just gonna jump right ahead and say this. People ask me all the time, what is my outlook for the disease, right? Do you think I'll find a cure? They'll find a cure in my lifetime. What I like to say is I'm very optimistic about where the research is taking us, where the science is taking us. And I'm very optimistic that there will be a disease modifying treatment in my lifetime.
Wow.
What that means is, may not be a cure, but disease modifying means slowing, stopping, or reversing the symptoms of Parkinson's.
Yeah.
So if any of those can be done, I'll be a happy camper.
Yeah.
Because if you ask me, hey, Jimmy, can you live the rest of your life in this current state? The answer is yes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the answer is yes. It sucks, but yeah, I can do it. So, you know, if it doesn't get worse for me, that would be a huge win for anybody. That would be a huge win. You know?
Yeah. And I mean, when you look at like the way technology and medicine has advanced in like a 10-year span, it's insane. So
yeah, absolutely. We're always finding new ways of doing research.
Yeah. And it is crazy. You found one way that kind of reversed it in a way.
Yeah,
exercise.
And you know what? It's, you know, people look at me and they think, well, it's a fluke, Jimmy. You're a fluke. I'm like, no, I'm not a fluke. I'm one guy that someone stuck a camera in front of once, so people know about. Right. But we can talk about guys with Parkinson's that's walked across America in world record time.
Yeah.
I can tell you about a guy who did 7 marathons on 7 continents in 7 days, and he lives with Parkinson's.
Wow.
You know, I can tell you a guy that's on our Olympic rowing team, you know, setting world records on the concept 2 rowers, right? And he has Parkinson's. I can tell you I can go on and on and on and on. You know?
Yeah.
A woman that has run 200 half marathons and 100 full marathons.
Jeez.
I can go on and on, but you know, again, someone stuck a camera in my face. But exercise, yes, is the best is the best medicine for Parkinson's.
This kind of goes with the people you're listing off, but who's the most inspirational person in your life?
You know, the most inspirational person, it has to be, it's kind of cliche, but I think it has to be my wife.
Yeah.
You know, I think I mentioned, actually, I've done a lot of podcasts, and I've actually never said that. So she's going to be listening to this. So, honey, yes, this is the first time I'm saying it. But really, it's because of everything that she's gone through in my dark years. Mm-hmm. And then you look at all the photos, right? You never see her in the photos. You see all the videos, you never see her. But she's always there in the back. You know, she's always there when I cross the finish line. She's always there cheering, you know, whether I fall in the pool on American Ninja Warrior or not. One thing that we haven't talked about is that I broke 2 world records during the pandemic. 2 fitness world records, one for burpees and one for push-ups.
What was the record?
Yeah, so one is for number of chest to ground hand release burpees in 1 minute, and I did 30 in 1 minute.
Nice.
And then
I hate those.
Everybody does.
Burpees are the worst.
And then the other one was lateral plyometric push-ups. So in my entire body over a line, back and forth in 1 minute, and it was 40 in 1 minute.
Wow.
So I did that, and you know, like if you watch the video and the person screaming the loudest, the person, you know, having the biggest cheer, and it's always her. It's always her, no matter what I do. And then when I'm down, she's there. She's lifting me up. She's my rock. And then when I retired from my professional life, you know, she continued driving to take care of the family and everything. They say behind every great man is an even better woman, and there's no better example than her.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Wow. One of the questions is, did you have to go off any medication for American Ninja Warrior?
No. In fact, they were great. First of all, they verified everything, right? Mm-hmm. And because the Parkinson's medication that I'm on is not performance enhancement for your average human person.
Right.
It is actually performance detrimental. If a healthy person takes what I take, I talked about the dyskinesia, right?
Yeah.
They would not have any they would lose so much control over their bodies. Actually detrimental. So no, it was not a banned substance, and they were very good. They actually gave me they always actually gave me a cue. So, you're about to compete. How much time do you need for your medicine to work? Let's make sure you're at your best. Yeah, very supportive staff over there.
One question is, I'm a behavioral therapist and would love him to shout out my PTS. Is that patience?
I don't know what that means.
I need a positive boost.
What does that mean?
I don't know.
But yeah,
shout out.
Shout out. Hey, no, it's so it's a a behavioral therapist is important. For people ask about my care team. It's not just my movement disorder specialist, which is also my neurologist. Mm-hmm. It's not just my general practitioner or doctors. It's not just the nurses. It's also physical therapists. It is also occupational therapists. It's psychiatric help. It's my care team consists of, and I include my coaches into all of that. You know, I have a coach for running. I have a coach for American Ninja Warrior or obstacle course. I have a coach for general fitness. They're all part of my care team. So everybody's important. And thank him or her for the question, and a big shout out.
I think it was shout out to my practitioners, to other
practitioners,
to behavioral therapists.
Either way, practitioners, thank you guys all for what you're doing, and patients, keep doing it. Just get out there and don't give up.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Sweet.
I would like to ditto that message.
Me too. And then last question, have you had any injuries since being diagnosed?
Injuries related to training, of course, right? Overuse, tendonitis, plantar fascia,
pinch nerve,
pinch nerve, bad back, but a lot of that has to do with I think it has to do with age also. So one thing that I learned, it's very important, is that I don't immediately attribute everything to Parkinson's, right? Oh man, I feel tired today. It must be the Parkinson's, right?
Right.
No, it's not. Parkinson's to me is the last resort. If I have an injury, I'm going to treat that injury as if it's an injury on its own.
Yeah.
Right.
Smart.
I'm not just gonna. Oh, it must be the Parkinson's, so I'm just gonna leave it alone, and then it gets worse. Right. So if I treat a new ailment, new injury as its individual thing first, and then if it doesn't work, then okay, maybe it is the Parkinson's, right? But I find that if I treat something as if it's on its own first, a lot of times I'm able to find either workarounds or alleviate that ailment or the injury altogether.
Yeah, I feel like that's really important. Like I deal with a lot of like mental problems, like anxiously and stuff like that, and that's been something in the past few weeks that I've just recently been able to be like, okay, that little pain there doesn't mean I'm dying, or like, like instead of spiraling into this, like it is the worst thing possible, just focusing on it as his own thing and then being like, all right,
solve the problem, right?
Yeah.
Solve the problem. Like you feel a problem, you solve a problem, right? At one point I was falling so much because I was losing my balance. Even after all this obstacle training, after all the running, two things that I did that was unconventional, right? Number one is I got a dog. So with Parkinson's, whenever the scenery changes, whenever you lose track of something and then you have to find the next thing to track, right? That's that time that it takes for me to say, if I pass a car, if I'm running, if I pass a car and then I have to find another object to track, right? That time that passes, the brain freezes up. All the muscles stop moving because I'm trying to concentrate on one task. Right.
Yeah.
That's when I fall, because now my legs stop running, my body kept going, and then I take a fall.
Right.
So now I went out and I got myself a dog who runs with me. So now instead of having to keep changing my eyesight and track, I just keep focused. She's been trained to run in front of me for six feet in front of me.
Oh wow.
So now I just concentrate on her. I don't have to switch the way I track things. I don't fall when I run with her. Dang. And I've trained her to if I say left, right, she'll turn left, right. She'll recognize the stop signs, things like that. So
that's so sick. So you solved the problem and you got a dog.
And I got a dog, right? Yes.
And you trained this dog.
And now she runs the house, like I said. So that's one of the things. Second thing I did was, going back to those burpees, right? I was falling a lot. So now I thought to myself, what, from a physical perspective, what can I do for myself that's going to help my situation? If you think about it, that burpee is a controlled fall. Right. And then I got to get myself back up off of the ground, and that's building strength to get back up. So if I do take a fall, I can fall safely, number one, and number two, I can get myself back up. That's why I started doing burpees, and I did so much of them that it gave me an opportunity to break a world record.
Wow. That's crazy.
That's sick. Hey Alexa, play Chumbawamba. I get knocked down.
That's right.
But I get up again.
That is actually a post-workout burner that I do. And every time you say I get knocked down, it's a burpee.
That's sick.
And in case you're wondering, it's 22 burpees in that song.
Oh, fuck.
Now, whenever the song goes into the chorus part where the lady is singing, right? And instead of, like, you're not just standing around, right?
Yeah.
You're holding a squat. Until they say I get knocked down, then you do a burpee.
It wasn't hard enough. You had to add
You know what? That's just how it works.
All right, next time we work out, I'm throwing that in there.
Yes.
Chumbawamba, burnout, burpee workout at the end.
Anytime
Squats.
you hear that song, you got to do burpees.
That's
and
right.
the squat.
I love it.
If you're in a bar, if you're doing karaoke, whenever that song's on.
Yeah.
Hey, I was at Disney with my kids, and we were in line, and the lines are so long, right? I'm like, what are we gonna do for whatever time? I'm like, every minute on the minute, we're doing 3 burpees.
In line?
In line, yeah. Every minute
The whole
on the
family?
minute.
He's raising champs.
You know what? Just my daughter is like, I'll do a few, and then I will film you the rest of the way. But someone else in line actually jumped in and did it with me the entire way.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but like find opportunities to move, find opportunities to, there's in life, you can sit around, twirl your thumbs in line, or you can do burpees.
Yeah.
Let's do some burpees.
True.
Standing around waiting in
Impressive.
line with nothing to do is one of the worst things ever. So like if you can come up with something.
Absolutely. It makes the time go by fast, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It gives you something to do, stay active, and you get to sharpen a skill.
Yeah.
Smart.
And everybody else gets to look at you impressed that you're doing fucking burpees.
Impressed or like you're a dumbass.
Yeah.
There's a fine line between the two.
Yeah, but you gotta let people laugh at you while you laugh at yourself. Who cares what they think, right?
Yeah. And in your mind, you could beat them all up if you needed to.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you are going to be on American Ninja Warrior with your daughter on Labor Day.
Yes.
So definitely check that out.
Yes.
And then, is there anything else you'd like to plug before we close up here?
Well, no, I mean, maybe not so much plug, but I just want the people out there to know that, life is going to deal with some obstacles in your way, right? It's up to you to decide what you want to do to get around it. There's always a way around, right? It may not be as straight as point A to B, right?
Yeah.
But there's always a way around. It's just up to you how you do it. One last story for you guys. In 2018, I was participating in a Spartan race. I don't know if you guys know what a Spartan race is. There's mud runs with obstacles.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And this was the World Championships. It's in Lake Tahoe. And I train in Illinois where it's nice and flat, right?
Mm-hmm.
Lake Tahoe is, the first 3 miles is completely up a ski hill.
Oh,
and we're
geez.
9,000 feet up with no air, not for my lungs, right?
Yeah.
So I get up to the top and I'm gassed,
Mm-hmm.
right? First 3 miles is uphill. I'm gassed. I'm like, holy shit. I don't know if I should. I'll go on. I said, you know what? If I quit, nobody would think any less of me if I quit.
Right.
Because I'm here. I'm at the World Championships. I qualified for the World Championships. I'm here,
Mm-hmm.
right? No one would think any less of me if I quit. But just at that moment, this badass former military guy with no legs comes rumbling through on his arms only, just arms and stub. I don't. If I offend anybody with that comment, I just don't know how else to describe it.
No, yeah.
Right? Arms and stub. He has no legs. Like I think it's up to mid thigh.
Holy
And he was
shit.
just like, on his fists, boom, 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 running. He went right past me. I'm like, what excuse do I have?
Yeah.
And then so I composed myself. Right? I sat there and I looked at that ski lift, bringing people back down. Right? I'm like, no one would think less of me if I got on.
Yeah.
I saw that guy go by. Right? I'm like, how do you want to tackle this obstacle? I could be like this guy. I can be like a badass. Right?
Right.
Or I can give up.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I finished. I went on and I finished 4th in my age group.
Wow.
Hell yeah.
That's
So,
wild.
That's it.
Never give up.
Never give up.
Don't
Never
be a
give
quitter
up.
unless you have to quit something, I guess.
Or always give 100% unless you're giving blood.
True.
Well, shit. Thank you so much for coming on. I think
Yeah,
everything you
thank
said
you.
was like really, really what people need to hear, especially in the past couple of years over the pandemic.
Oh,
Like there's so
absolutely.
many people losing motivation and quitting and giving up that need to hear what you have to say about not giving up.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, thank you. Very inspirational. I feel like I've got to go work out for 4 hours now. go on some run. But
Hey, maybe if you guys ever want to do a YouTube video of you guys joining in one of my workouts.
That'd be sick. I'm
Yeah,
down.
yeah, that'd be cool.
How long are you here for? I don't know if this is doxing you, but you're moving out here, right?
Yeah, but when my kids go to college,
Gotcha.
my wife and I will be out here.
Sweet.
But yeah.
Cool. Well,
Collab.
let's go. I'm down.
Yeah, it's always a lot of fun, and at the end of the day, it's not about who wins or loses or whatever. It's let's all have some fun.
That's something the guy who knows he's gonna win says.
But no, thank you guys for having me. It's always an honor to be asked to share my story, and for you guys to give me the opportunity on your platform. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Well,
Thank
we
you so
appreciate
much.
you telling it on our platform. Like we're happy to have you here. So thank you so much, Jimmy. And now, shall we say it? Shall we say NGMI out on the count of 3?
Yeah, we have our outro. We say NGMI out.
Oh, do we extend it though? Do we do the long out?
Yeah, out for like 3 seconds.
For 3 seconds. All right, I'll do the best I can.
All right.
He says NGMI, then we all say out.
Okay.
All right.
NGMI out.
Perfect.